Going back to work or school after a bereavement. Compassionate leave in the UK, I'm not quite sure what it's called in other countries, is the time off that you get when a loved one dies. And it's a really great thing, as it means that you don't have to worry about money whilst grieving. And if you've ever grieved before, you'll know that it's probably one of the only periods in your life where money just really doesn't matter. But that isn't what this video is about today, and this video really is about going back to work after, because it's one of the most surreal experiences that everyone has to go through at some point. And this is mainly due to the fact that your life over the past month has completely been turned upside down, and everyone else is just acting normal. This contrast can seem at times unbearable. Now, of course, everyone at work is acting normal. They probably didn't know your loved one, and if they did, they especially didn't know them as well as you did. But it seems strange that the world is carrying on without your loved one exactly the same as it was before, with little or no ceremony. Now, in a way, this can make it easier because it really helps returning to normal by everyone else around you being normal. And a lot of people say that this is part of the grieving process, to almost return to the tempo of things that you were doing before your life had such a tragedy. And focusing on things as mundane as work can really help with that. But this doesn't really make the experience any less weird. Next comes the way that people act around you. Even when people really care about you, it can still be difficult for them to say the right thing. Indeed, the very act of them trying to say the right thing can sometimes feel a bit wrong. For me personally, I really didn't want to cry at work. Not because I see it as a weakness, but just because if I was to cry, I'd rather be around people who are crying about the same thing, which is very rarely a work colleague. Also, humans have this built-in need to stop crying. Think about it. If you hear a baby crying, you just want it to stop. It's evolutionary. When you're grieving, you need to cry. This isn't the same as the other reasons you might cry, and work colleagues might try and find ways to cheer you up, and it isn't bad on their part. But personally, it's not a position I wanted to be in. So I just told people, I don't want to talk about it, and thanks for your concern. And this isn't the right answer for everyone, but in the 3 times I've gone to work after a close family member dying, I've found this works for me the most. Equally, when I'm at work with someone who has had a close family member die, I usually say, "That's really shit. I know how it feels, and let me know if you want to talk about it." Now, that might sound a little simplistic, but breaking it down, it does a few things. First of all, that's shit. I'm just saying there's nothing I can do to fix it, but I recognise you're in an awful situation. I know how it feels. The first time you feel the pain of grief is pretty singular in pain compared to anything else. And sometimes it can be comforting knowing that you're not the only one that's felt this level of pain before, but also at the time I try not to labour the point because it really isn't about me. And then finally, let me know if you want to talk about it. Some people do, some people don't, but it lets people know, as you know how it feels, that you're happy to listen. As with anything, this isn't foolproof, and it usually isn't as structured as I'm making it out to be, but it works to show that you recognise their pain without prying. For me personally, after my siblings died, it seemed like everyone at work wanted to talk to me, to give me condolences, which was great and quite caring of my colleagues, but after the 10th time it was a bit harder to say, I don't want to talk about it, and I probably, towards the end of the days, was getting a bit more to the point than I usually would be. And that's probably because, looking back, my guilt phase wasn't really over yet, and it's hard to take people being really nice to you when you feel like a villain for all the things that you could have done with your loved one. Ultimately, the reason that I made this video was I wanted to just say that going back to work or school is part of the process, and it's a big part that I don't think is mentioned that much. And just to say, the numbness that you feel is normal, the surrealness you feel is normal, And the guilt you feel for wanting to shut it out and get on with your work is normal as well. And that's all I really wanted to say.